Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into a truly profound, almost majestic critique of our modern legal systems. We're going to be exploring the visionary work of Ardeshir Ardalan, and he presents this absolutely powerful argument for a civilizational rebirth and how we understand and apply the law. You see, this isn't just about, technical rules or court procedures. It's about the very soul of our society and how we actually structure our shared human experience. So settle in, because we're unpacking a framework that pretty much challenges everything we thought we knew about the role of a legal thinker.
Okay, let's dive into this. What happens when the law completely forgets the people it was actually meant to protect? That is the central conflict of Ardalan's entire thesis. Take a deep breath and really think about that for a second. We build these massive, incredibly complex legal structures to maintain order, right? To protect our rights and basically serve humanity. But what happens when the architects of those structures get so obsessed with the blueprints that they just forget about the people who actually have to live inside the building? When the law loses touch with human suffering, human needs, and just our everyday reality, it stops being a shield and it starts becoming a cage.
And that brings us to the core problem here, the Ivory Tower Jurist. Ardalan makes this brilliant, honestly kind of chilling point. He notes that an ivory tower philosopher might be harmlessly lost in the clouds, maybe losing touch with objective truth, but an ivory tower jurist, now they're actually dangerous. Why? Because sitting way up there in their isolated fortress of abstract concepts and closed theoretical systems, they don't just lose touch with reality, they lose the very concepts that define their existence in the first place, stuff like freedom, justice, and wisdom. They're living entirely among books and scientific categorizations, completely insulated from the vibrant, messy, and often painful reality of the society down below.
The stark difference between these two worlds is incredibly clear. On one side, you've got the sterile isolation of the abstract jurist. To them, the law is just this lifeless object, right? A strict theoretical category to be memorized and debated. But on the other side is the lived experience. Down here, law is a living, breathing architecture. It's a relationship of trust. It's a vibrant societal response to the real challenges of human life. Now, Ardalan isn't saying we should just toss out legal theory. Not at all. Rather, he's powerfully critiquing the separation of thought from reality. Because the ultimate goal of law is the rational organization of human life, and you literally cannot organize life if you refuse to touch it.
Section 1. The Three Sins of the Ivory Tower. Let's look at the cascading failures that happen when law is separated from reality.
To really understand how a legal system suffocates, we have to look at the rhythmic sequence of this failure. Step 1, ignoring the lived experience. Step 2, abstract formalism. And Step 3, a complete disconnect from true order, which Ardalan calls summon. He uses this beautiful metaphor of the 7 stages of forming a legal concept. The Ivory Tower Jurist, they get stuck at the very first stage, completely bypass the living human being in the second stage, and basically skip straight to the final stage, the rigid legal institution. They just rip the legal concept entirely out of its living source.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how it captures the tragedy of that first sin perfectly. Contract, before being a legal title, is a relationship of trust. We throw around the word contract all the time in business and law, treating it as this sterile, technical document. Think about the last time you signed a lease or clicked agree on some massive user agreement. We usually treat them like mere paperwork. But Ardalan reminds us that before a contract is ever a legal title, it's born from human connection. It's fundamentally a relationship of trust between people just trying to navigate life together. By ignoring those deeply human origins, the Ivory Tower Jurist strips the humanity right out of the law.
And you can see this truth across all legal foundations. Take civil liability. It isn't just a mathematical equation for calculating damages. It's society's profound, collective response to harm and disruption in our shared environment. Or the concept of will in legal terms. That isn't just a mechanical element of a transaction. It is the ultimate reflection of human freedom and choice. These are not merely technical structures. They are deeply human responses designed to protect our life world. And when jurists forget that, they lose the plot entirely.
Which brings us to the devastating impact of the second sin, abstract formalism. Ardalan introduces a really powerful native term here called drooge. Take a second to absorb this. Drooge is dysfunction, it's deceit. It is this chilling state where a legal concept still exists perfectly on paper, looking completely valid to the Ivory Tower Jurist, but its true function, its very moral compass, has completely died. The jurist is just sitting there staring at the rulebook, totally blind to the fact that the rule no longer serves any actual human purpose. So the crucial point is how Drew basically creates a lifeless corpse of the law. The hollow concept remains, but the lost function is totally gone.
We end up with a society that has ownership written into the law, sure, but the functional soul of that ownership, trusteeship and stewardship over resources, is completely lost. We have liability in the statutes, but the true goal of meaningful compensation and actual repair of harm has just vanished. The jurist just keeps defining these hollow concepts up in their tower, completely unaware that they've lost their compass.
Which leads directly to the third sin, perfectly captured in this striking quote. Unjust and inefficient order is still order, but it is not saman. See, the Ivory Tower Jurist thinks law is just a tool for control, completely ignoring the quality of that control. A dictatorship has order, a broken red tape bureaucracy has order, but Ardalan insists that true order, what he calls saman, is deeply qualitative. It's functional. It is just. Basically, if your legal system isn't fostering a healthy, thriving society, it really doesn't matter how neat and tidy your rulebooks are. You don't have saman.
Section 2. The Persian Renaissance. Let's step out of the ivory tower and into the majestic rebirth of the law.
Let's move to this and see how it builds, because how do we actually fix this? How do we cure the decay of Druge? Ardalan offers a highly practical framework to get the jurists back out onto the streets, the markets, and the courts. It starts with Window Zero, which is a methodological confession where the jurist has to honestly admit where they stand relative to real human experience. Then come the 5 windows. Think of these as conceptual surgery to diagnose and fix those functional deviations we just talked about. And finally, the ultimate test, the 3 pillars of Asha, which are relentlessly used to assess the true, living function of the law.
Section 3, the scale of Asha, the foundational framework for building true civilizational order.
Those 3 pillars make up what Ardalan calls the scale of Asha, which is really the ultimate resolution to our problem here. For a legal system to truly serve humanity, it absolutely must balance 3 critical elements: predictability, viability, and synergy. It can't just have 1 or 2 of these. All 3 pillars have to form a unified, balanced whole to achieve genuine saman. Because if they're out of balance, the law just becomes a weapon rather than a tool for human flourishing.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference when a true jurist interprets these pillars compared to an abstract formalist. It's literally night and day. Take predictability. To the ivory tower, it just means the laws don't change on paper, but the true meaning is that the law acts in actual harmony with the life world of the people. Look at viability. The ivory tower sees it as rigid bureaucratic planning, while its true purpose is to be deeply designed for human life. And synergy? The isolated jurist uses law to demand subjugation and obedience, while true synergy is all about actively fostering cooperation and mutual growth among citizens.
Ardalan captures the beauty of this rebirth in this magnificent, incredibly poetic metaphor. Hafez and Darius sitting together in a new civilizational contract. I mean, think about what that represents for a second. Hafez is the embodiment of intuition, poetry, the human soul. Darius represents the absolute pinnacle of rational order, governance, and structure. The new legal framework has to be a perfect synthesis of theoretical wisdom and practical, lived human experience.
And that brings us to our core takeaway for today. The true jurist is not someone who abandons science or legal theory. They aren't anti-intellectual. Actually, it's quite the opposite. They are a vital bridge. They step out of the ivory tower to connect theory with experience, to connect the rigid text with messy reality, and to bridge the lessons of history with the promise of the future. The call here is urgent, folks. We don't abandon science, but we must urgently return it to its singular, life-giving source, which is humanity itself.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you reflecting deeply on this question. It applies to all of us, whether we're lawmakers, everyday citizens, or just observers of society. Will we allow our legal frameworks to remain lifeless concepts, trapped up in a tower of abstract formalism? Or will we do the hard work required to rebuild them so that they truly breathe with the lived experience, the joys, and the sufferings of humanity?
That choice literally dictates the future of our civilization. So I'll leave you with Ardeshir Ardalan's own powerful sign-off, a beautiful reminder of the strength required for this kind of transformation. Stay resilient, stay victorious. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the structures around you.